Hello and welcome to the New York Augmented Reality Meetup. I'm really happy that all of you are able to join tonight. So thank you so much for being here. Unfortunately, due to unsolicited comments and spam, and we did our best to take the proper precaution and make some adjustments to the meetup. So now, as you can tell, folks are not gonna be able to share their video feed or unmute themselves, and you're not able to directly message members in the chat. If we see things loosen up towards the end, we can open up the interactivity for a larger group discussion. If you have any questions or thoughts throughout the meetup, you can reach out to either me or Barry directly, and we could share it with the speaker or the group. So now you know if you see the chat video or mic locked, that's why. So just wanted to start with that before moving on. Nevertheless, I am really excited to have you all here tonight. Thank you for joining the meetup. Both Barry and I worked hard on tonight's event, and we are glad you're here to support augmented reality and learn more from our amazing speakers. Here's the schedule for tonight's event. We're going to start out with a meetup overview, and highlight some of the ways that you can get involved with the group. Then we will go over some of the latest industry trends and news in the space. And then after that, we'll move on to hearing from some of the industry leading speakers, including Hans 10 Cate from Tilt 5, Michele McClogan from Siena College, Chris Rojas from Rojas Designs, and Sam Wolfe from PitchFWD. So we're really excited to hear from all our speakers. But before we get started, I want to take a moment to thank the wonderful Barry Seff, who without this meetup would not be possible. Thank you, Barry, for all your help in organizing the events. If you could share a few words of wisdom with the group, it would be much appreciated.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm a bit scarred from that preview to the meetup. Apologize again, but I can only say we should just have good thoughts and good intentions for the rest of this meetup and move forward with amazing new tech and great insights. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you, Barry. Tonight marks our first meetup of 2023, and I'm excited that our group now has well surpassed the 2,000 member milestone. And over our 33 events, tonight is the 34th event, and that makes us one of the leading groups in AR, and we could not have done it without your support. So thank you for being here tonight and being part of the New York Augmented Reality group. This year, we hope to continue hosting great events as well as some more in-person events, so we can connect with each other in person, eliminate some of this spam, and have overall a good time. So we're excited to be here and help grow the augmented reality industry. Our next event's on February 27th, which is our formal evening meetup similar to tonight. And we have Joe Gabriel joining us, one of the speakers. He's the developer relations lead at Niantic. He used to work at Tilt 5. A company who's speaking here with us tonight. It should be a great event. So February 27th. And if you want to join and find out more information, you can do so on our meetup page. So the New York Augmented Reality meetup page. And once again, typically we have the chat unlocked so you can connect with others and share your thoughts throughout the presentation. However, unfortunately, we needed to disable it this time. Nevertheless, if there's anyone in the group that you'd like to connect with, speakers or otherwise, recommend reaching out to them over LinkedIn. It's a great way to stay in touch. And you could also let Barry or I know if you want to speak to anyone, we could help facilitate that connection. And lastly, if you want to speak or help organize future events, definitely reach out. We'd love to see how you can get involved. It would be a great help. We'd love to have you. Okay, breaking news. We'd love to go over some industry insights from the past month. And if there's anything that you'd like to hear more detail on, feel free to reach out and I could send you more information on it. Upcoming events, Photonics West is going on now in San Francisco until February 2nd. There's no remote viewing from what I've seen. However, you could see the exhibitor list and the speaker set online, so check that out. I'm sure there's some really interesting information. JetBrains, the creators of the Rider IDE, has a software series on developing with game engines. So they have creating games with Unity on February 7th, and later on in the month, developing games with Unreal. So whichever engine you prefer, you can learn more about integrating JetBrains software into your workflow. Scope AR has a webinar on AR medical technology that I saw on LinkedIn. Just figured out, posted. I don't know too much about it, but it seems like it'll be a knowledgeable event if you're interested in medical use cases for augmented reality. And lastly, this is an exhibit that I stumbled upon in New York City at the MoMA. And this is video games and immersive technology. And that's been going on, not February 2nd. That's just, that was a mistake. It's been ongoing for the past month and probably staying for the next few months. And it talks about the evolution of immersive technology over the past 40 years. And there's some great examples from the iPod to this augmented reality headset called the iWriter, which was a project by Zach Lieberman and James Powderly in New York City that MoMA now has in their permanent collection. And it's really fascinating and shows how the medium has progressed. And if you're interested in AR, I'm sure you're interested in seeing the evolution of computing. So this is definitely a really nice overview. So I recommend checking that out at the MoMA, and that's complimentary with a ticket. Two opportunities that I saw. So BMW has an immersive tech supplier-thon. The video, which is not playing here, that was through Audi's active sphere concept on the left. But if you're interested in developing AR technologies for vehicles, BMW is hosting a contract opportunity, so you can reach out with some ideas and perhaps get the chance to work with the automobile group. And NASA is hosting a contract opportunity for developers looking to work on augmented reality based spacesuit display systems. I reached out to NASA to speak at the meetup, at one of the meetups, but they weren't able to speak, but they said they'd be happy if I shared. So now I'm sharing it. Yeah, it looks really interesting. There's very fascinating PDFs that go into description on the project, and I would check it out just to see what NASA is looking for on that work. So yeah, those are the two opportunities that I want to highlight. And then some news very much shortened from a long list, but Mojo Vision is now focusing specifically on micro LEDs. Away from the contact lenses. To date, Mojo Vision raised $224 million. However, this shift also led to 75% reduction in staff. Nikhil Balram is who spoke at the meetup in the past, is working with Mojo on the micro LEDs. So if perhaps if you'd like to be in touch with him, I'd be happy to make some intros if that could be of interest to you. Microsoft had layoffs, as you know, and also the IVAS program is having trouble. Soldiers are reporting headaches, nausea, and some are saying that they're less effective with the headset on. Yeah, and the MRTK team at Microsoft was also supposedly laid off, according to some social media posts. Amazon, AWS, and MLSE. So MLSE owns a bunch of sport teams, 6 sport teams in professional sports teams in the US. And they're working with Amazon AWS to offer augmented reality viewing for live sports, which is really cool and ties in a lot of tracking methods within the games in order to like project AR on the viewing experience. And I think they're starting out with in-person games, which is really exciting and gives people a good reason to actually go out and watch the games versus sitting in their homes and watching on their TV. And on the sports topic, Niantic released the All World app, which is in partnership with the NBA, map-based. There's not too much AR visuals here, but they are exploring camera-based gameplay in the future. So that is some of the news. Now, without further ado, I'm excited to announce tonight's presenters, where we have incredible professionals who are in their own right all pushing the industry forward in a variety of different ways. And I'm very excited to get the chance to learn more about their work and experience. and it's an honor to have them here with us tonight. After each presentation, we'll have a 5-minute Q&A, so you have the chance to ask your question to the speaker. Since the chat is disabled, please message me directly and I will collate the questions and ask them to the speaker at the end. Thank you everyone for joining tonight. Now, without further ado, I'm excited to announce our first speaker, Hans ten Cate. He's the Chief Business Officer of Tilt5, an awesome company, and they're making the world's first consumer affordable augmented reality system focused on gaming. Hans has worked in the video game industry for over 20 years, starting at Sony PlayStation and later at Electronic Arts, designing, producing, and publishing games for hit franchises like The Sims and The Simpsons. Hans was chair of the International Game Developer Association, or IGDA, where he served on the board for 3 years. Thank you, Hans, for joining us tonight. And we may have to fiddle around with the screen sharing settings, but okay. I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you, Andy, for that kind introduction. Hello, everybody. I'm here to tell you a little bit what's going on with Tilt5. For those of you who are not familiar, I'll cover some basics as well. And hopefully it's not too much of a repeat of things you might have seen. Andy also asked me to provide an update of what's been going on with some of our work, particularly. Can you guys see this okay?
Yeah, it looks great. Thank you.
Okay, super. Particularly how we're doing on our Kickstarter and a couple other things. So with that, I will give you a bit of an overview. One of my favorite things to kind of mention first and foremost is that, you know, this is our North Star. These are the movies that we grew up with, that I, as a kid, said, wouldn't it be great if this could really happen? You know, we were promised this future filled with holograms in specific places where we could collaborate and work and play and learn and communicate. We had holographic Princess Leia's and so forth. And Hollywood made you think that this was around the corner, that we couldn't wait to turn our homes into Tony Stark's lab, you know. And in truth, it all looks very possible and plausible. Gaming has evolved so rapidly over the years. Every 6 to 10 years, we see this huge quantum leap almost in what technology can do to enrich the entertainment experience. It becomes more immersive, more real, better graphics. It's just growing at a staggering rate. It seems within reason that all the entertainment that we enjoy and play on screens will jump off those screens and into our living rooms and become interactive 3D play spaces. And so we're excited to try and bring that to reality. Of course, reality being one thing, we are somewhat humbled by the stumbles that, you know, we've taken when it comes to information technology and entertainment technology. We're very attached to our screens, no question, but it's ironically a very isolating experience. There is no eye contact. There is none of that sort of social interaction you feel when we used to have game night, when you would all sit around the table with your friends or family and interact with one another. Devices that provide that more deeper, enriching experiences can actually still be isolating. It can make you tired and have eye fatigue and can give you headaches. They cost a pretty penny, some of them, particularly these AR glasses, and the delivery can be somewhat underwhelming. Sometimes the field of view is very small, it just doesn't feel super immersive, and we still have a long way to go. We think the technology that we've developed takes a huge leap forward and delivers on some things that we thought weren't possible, and Tilt5 innovates in a couple areas. And this is basically that vision, this idea that on the table, you would have a 3D holographic spatial display. Holographic is technically not the true scientific term for it, but we use it somewhat liberally like Hollywood does. And it is a spatial, it's a 3D volume that you can share with one another and cooperate, collaborate, play, and use it for a lot of things. But what's nice is that it is true mixed reality, is true augmented reality. You see each other, you can see each other's body language, you can make eye contact, and you can negotiate and work together. Our system is, as you can see from the images very focused on games. It's our tip of the spear. It is a 3D display technology and doesn't, as you will see, necessarily need to provide games. It doesn't even need to be about board games. Just because it's on a tabletop doesn't mean that it's strictly about Catan, which we are, by the way, bringing to the system. We've obtained a couple licenses and announced some of those already. We're about to announce another one very, very soon. But other games that sort of run the gamut across many, many different genres. And we try to entice people to develop games, and we publish some games in lots of different genres. So there's a little bit of something for everybody, and you can find those on our games catalog on our website. You can go, and all these games are there. There's 36 of them by now, and they're growing. They're also growing through a new thing that Andy wanted me to talk about. Is that back in about a month ago we announced the lab. The Tilt 5 lab is very much somewhat like the App Lab or SideQuest. It's a place for people to submit their projects. Maybe they're not full-fledged games. They are little demos. They can be student projects. They can be something that was just developed for kicks, but they show really nicely how the Tilt 5 can be used. And we're game. We're open to anything that somebody wants to provide, and we'll put you through a submission process and do a couple of what's called technical requirements checklist certification, or TRCs, just to make sure everything is on the up and up and performs as expected. And then we can distribute your project for you or link it to wherever you want to post it. But it allows for us to grow a catalog of content really easily without it necessarily being games. Some of these were created by students at the UCSC, University of California in Santa Cruz. They made some projects that they then showcased at a trade show, and they're phenomenal. And they were created within about a week. And it was a small team, and it's very easy to develop for. I'll share with you a little bit how kind of like our SDK is built for just about anybody who knows how to use Unity and Unreal. It's really simple. But before I do that, let me just very quickly kind of run through like what is our system. We are an augmented reality glasses company. We provide hardware, but we also provide an SDK and some games and ways to publish our games. But we have these very lightweight plastic glasses. And the way they work is that they're tethered to a compute device that you already own. And it can be a PC, a Windows PC. It can also be Linux. And it can also be an Android device. We hope to support Apple products like Mac OS and iPhone. But for now, using a USB-C cable, you plug that in and the compute device renders 2 video images through our SDK and projects those from the glasses. 2 tiny little Pico projectors project those away from your body onto what we call a game board, but it's really a retroreflector. It's a retroreflective surface that consists of billions of tiny glass microspheres. And the way the physics or optics work when you're presented with these little glass beads is that light enters and it gets turned around at 180 degrees right back into your glasses. And the light field is effectively coming from the table then. It's not being rendered inside some glass lens, but it allows us to do a couple of things. One is that we can treat it almost like a true light field, and everything you see is at the correct focal distance it would be if it were real. And so if you're familiar with this limitation called the divergence accommodation conflict, this sort of sidesteps that problem entirely, which means no eye fatigue, no headache. You can wear our glasses and use them for 3, 4, 5 hours at a stretch and not really feel like your eyes are just constantly focused at infinity, which is unfortunately what you have to do when you're using most other kind of headsets. They have a divergence accommodation issue. And so that's why you feel fatigue and headachy and sometimes nauseous. So we solve for that. And so what is then rendered in front of you, because you're getting a left and a right eye image, is this illusion of 3D objects right there on your table. And they're very compelling, and it's super bright. It looks like a 3D computer screen has been laid flat and turned on your table. And the illusion is very, very convincing. And in addition to being able to do that around the table by yourself or with others, is that the glasses also hold 2 infrared cameras, which are used to locate the game board. Also identifies where you are holding your, what some people call a barbecue lighter, but it's actually our controller. You can think of it as a magic wand, like Harry Potter style, but it has buttons and a joystick on there, much like a game controller. And the glasses look for how you're holding this in 3D space. So it's actually a 6DoF controller. In addition, the other camera can also identify physical objects, game tokens, your hands, miniatures, playing cards. And then lastly, about the wand is that, it's something that's familiar that you may have used in everyday life, like a game controller, or if you're a wizard, a magic wand. And most importantly, it's affordable. It's meant to be sold to the consumers. It's the first augmented reality headset priced for the consumer market. $359 for a base kit. You get glasses and a wand and a large foldable game board. Sells for $359. We also have group packs where you can buy a box with 2 glasses or 3 glasses in them, in addition to a game board. We are Kickstarter back. That's something that Andy wanted me to mention, sort of give you an update on that. It's been a while since we did our Kickstarter campaign. We were the largest crowdsourced AR campaign in history, raised over $2 million. And I'm happy to report we shipped them, they're out. For those of you who have been part of that campaign and for some reason have not received them, we've been trying to get a hold of you. So anybody on this call that's thinking, hey, where's my kit? I was part of this. Give me a shout or give us a shout. But for the most part, we fulfilled our Kickstarter obligation and we started shipping all of our pre-orders and orders as they come in. So we're very, very excited about that. For those of you who are developers, we have a very, very easy to use drag and drop SDK that you can use with Unity, with Unreal. There's also a native version in C that you can use, and it's like I said, it's very quick to set up. Most people who have a Unity or Unreal project can take our plugin and then hit play and instantly see a 3D project that you've been working on through the glasses in just a couple of minutes. Most people who do full-on games, and if they've got a game that's already shipped for PC, there's usually a couple more steps involved in terms of converting 2D screen space UI to a world space layer. So there's more time involved in that. But most of this porting process, if you want to call it, can be measured in weeks, not months. So it is a very, very quick system to develop for, very easy, very adaptable. You can also edit in real time and watch through the glasses as things are being moved, just like you see that fox being moved. It's terrific. Probably the by way of news, we recently, like as in last week, shipped our latest SDK, and this is the mother of all updates for us. It has got so many features in here. It took a while to kind of polish and get all the kinks out of it. But now we can support multi-glasses, meaning that you can plug, as we promised, multiple glasses into one compute device. So up to 4 glasses into one computer, and all use the same computer and share an experience, share a game, share a world, whatever. We also provide multi-wand support. So for those that want to have some kind of multi-wand, like Beat Saber-y kinds of things, you can use 2 wands. We've also now enabled the ability to use the tangible tracking camera, meaning like you can detect hands and objects. A lot of people have asked for, can I take the game board and rather than lay it flat on the table, can I put one up on the wall? We give you now some basic capability to do that, to do a transform and rotate the board 90 degrees. So now you can project holographic images coming out of the wall. And then lots of performance improvements. Our first Android support is here. So for those who want to develop something simple with a smaller device that now you can walk around the table more easily, that's perfect, because lots of cables in one computer can be a little bit onerous. Certainly better than all of you bringing one PC to the table and having an experience. Having a much smaller device that sits in your pocket is, of course, fantastic. So we're very, very pleased with this update. Pretty much all in all, this is a gaming system. It's perfect for solo gameplay. It's meant to be comfortable and easy to use. It's super lightweight. You don't have eye strain, as I mentioned. And so, game away. I mean, most of us play board games and video games for hours at a stretch without getting up, going to the bathroom, or going for a sandwich. So you want to be able to play for long periods, and that's what this system is built for, finally. And it's also social. If you got those multiple glasses plugged into the same device, you can spectate or participate, have lots of people take turns, play board games. Everybody has their own unique view, so nobody can see what the other person sees. That's just the wonderful nature of this optic system. The light that you're projecting is being returned to you, so you get your own private view. Lots of, and we don't touch the network stack, so you can have lots of opportunities to build your own networked experience where two people with two Tilt 5 systems across the globe are playing each other almost as if they're virtually sharing the same world. Still works super easy. In one of our really proudest partnerships, partnering with a company in Vancouver, they make a product called Mixcast. This lets you plug in an additional webcam pointed at the game board, calibrate it, and now you can actually record an additional view, but have it superimpose what the players are doing. So you'll have the players in the shot, like you see in some of these scenes. They're sitting at the game board, and you can also project show what's being done on the game board itself. So now you can make marketing video, share that on TikTok and YouTube. Finally, you don't have to stare at, like, I wonder what that person is doing in front of this gray game board. Now you can actually show it. Just really, really cool, fun for us. Beyond games, there's been lots of folks doing all manners of things, from visualizing orbital space debris to real-time volumetric capture to a holographic board game that teaches kids, oncology patients in particular, how to do at-home care. It's actually been used by a British television series called Time Team, where they're examining 3D artifacts, but virtually without needing to touch them. So these digital archaeologists, as you call them, use Tilt 5 to be able to look at 3D archaeological finds. So that's basically a highlight of everything that Tilt 5 is and has been doing. I'll turn it over to questions. We're very, very pleased with the reception. Obviously, we do. We show up at conferences and have a blast. People love it. They say really good things about it. We still have a long way to go. We still would love to work with all of you. So we're looking forward to seeing how far this journey takes us. If you're interested in trying this out, let me know. And with that, I'll turn it over to questions if anyone has them.
Thank you, Hans. Love the work. Really, really exciting stuff. And of course, amazing reviews from across the industry. So it's amazing to have you here. Thank you. Barry, do you have any questions you want to ask? If not, I have some that came to me. Okay. I think Barry's helping his son with homework. Okay, first question. Will Tilt 5 gaming systems be made available to school districts at discounts?
I would love that. I think education is one of the biggest next use cases for the technology that we got most of our inquiries with the ELT industry, education, learning, and training. So much of that is also being looked at with other headsets, of course, but you can imagine seeing, 3D models of the solar system or molecules, or doing physics experiments, or there are, our brains intuitively just kind of think more, we tend to resonate more with ideas and complex concepts when they're presented in true 3D. And so, and we're finding that very easily. I think probably about a third of the Tilt 5 systems that are sold are not being used for games at all. And the majority of them are being used for some kind of training, whether it's training for corporations and companies or for schools. I personally would love to see one of these in every living room, classroom, conference room across the globe. So that's our goal. If we do a discount, you'll be sure to read about it on our website. I would love to get this into schools and see what they do with it.
Awesome. Thank you, Hans. And another question that I received regarding the other use cases of the Tilt 5. Are there additional experiences outside of board games that one can use the Tilt 5 for?
Yes, absolutely. And I went through the presentation a little quickly, but there were some examples of them. Honestly, what these glasses do is they create a 3D volume in which you can display anything that requires 3D stereoscopic view of things. It could be data, it could be models, it could be digital twins. I mean, there really is no limitation to what it is you'd like to do Much like, you know, the world's your oyster if you're designing for VR or anything like that. But in this particular case, the advantages are you have a single unified space that can be shared with anybody. It's sub-millimeter accurate. So if I take my finger and point at a very specific part of a holographic image or a 3D image, I'm pointing to the same couple of pixels that you would see from your point of view, even if you're sitting next to me or opposite me. So that's really cool. And so really, whether it's education, different kinds of games, I know people mistake us for a board game replacement system. We're so much more than that. In fact, more than half the content that we have released or supported so far are some kind of video games. They're twin stick shooters, there's puzzle games, there's platformers. We've actually gotten first-person shooters, and it sounds kind of weird to sit at a coffee table looking down and you're playing a first-person shooter. But if you think about it, a lot of kids lay on their back on the floor looking up at the television. It's pretty much the same 90-degree perspective you have if you're playing video games. So for us, I think, honestly, I can't think of anything it can't not do, especially if it's something you want to do in 3D.
Awesome. Thank you, Hans. And just one final question. What are some advantages or disadvantages of working for a startup versus a large corporation in this space?
Oh man, I could talk for days about this. You know, the most obvious limitation is one of money. We have to be scrappy. You know, this company was bootstrapped a number of times. It was started by Jerry Ellsworth over 10 years ago. It's been a long journey for her to get it from when she first discovered how to do this at Valve Software at the R&D lab that she ran, that also created the HTC Vive and a bunch of other wonderful technologies. This was her creation, and it's taken a while. Unfortunately, in the world we live in, particularly for complex products, like things that involve a lot of electronics and hardware, you need money to run a business, and that means you do a Kickstarter, but then that may not be enough. You still need, you know, investors and angel money and so forth. So had we had meta money, I guess, you know, who knows where this could have gone. But weirdly, we, in a way, and this is to in no way take away from the fine accomplishments of Meta, is that we feel like we've taken this very, very far compared to the billions that they spent on a very, very modest amount of funding it's taken to get here. We've delivered something that is truly immersive, outperforms many other headsets. So if any of you on this call are investors, please call me. But yeah, no, thanks for that question. It's a easy question with a complex answer, but you know, resources always get in the way if you're small.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hans. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Cool. Before we move on, I got a message regarding the Microsoft, that there's a rumor that Microsoft is buying Magic Leap, and that's why all the mixed reality teams at Microsoft got let go. So I just wanted to share that with the group. Next up, we have Michele McClogan here with us tonight. Michele is an associate professor in the Department of Physics and Astronomy. She teaches general physics courses for freshmen, as well as electronics courses for students in the electrical track of the applied physics major. Working with a team of students and faculty, she developed augmented reality models to teach 3D physics concepts. She's interested on how AR helps students learn physics concepts and build spatial reasoning skills. This past fall, she received an NSF grant to continue her work on the development of augmented reality models and instructional materials for magnetism concepts. It's great to have you here with us, Michele.
Thank you. I'm just gonna share now.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm here today. I'm just gonna, this is my student, Natalie. She's a senior, and she was in my physics class, but she's a chemistry major and is now a physics minor, and she's going into teaching. So she's gonna do part of the presentation too.
Cool. Thanks for coming.
Okay, so just to note, I have to say Siena is spelled with one L or one N, and my name's spelled with one L, but you know.
Sorry,
That's okay, totally fine.
I guess you have
so-
to come back now.
What? Am I missing?
No, I was saying, I guess you have to come another time.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it's good to have you.
So we started this project with a bunch of students in 2018. We now have about 5 faculty working on it, and about 25 students in physics and astronomy, chemistry, engineering, computer science, neuroscience, biology, and a little bit of business and some physics education, physics and engineering education. When we started out in 2018, we were meeting in person, but we got really far during COVID because we worked through Slack and over Zoom meeting every day. So that was pretty cool. We call our app the Marvels, and Marvels stands for Manipulable Augmented Reality Visualizations to Learn Spatially. And so we're using augmented reality using a multi-target cube and a phone or a tablet. And students hold the cube in their hand and rotate the model so they can view the model that they're holding from different perspectives through their phone. At the moment, we have about 60, probably a little more, physics models, 35 organic chemistry models that Natalie will tell you about because I know very little about organic chemistry. So she did all of those models. Around 10 math models that are supportive for physics, some engineering models. We're getting into a lot of the engineering models, and we have a neuroscience model as well. And what you see here is you see Young's double slit experiment through the app. And so there's different things on here where you can change wavelength, you can change slit spacing, you can change split width, you can change slit distance. So just a way I always, one of the things, well, let me talk about my motivation. Not advancing. There we go. So just what we were using so far in terms of cubes, we're using the foam cube, which is the merge cube. And I'm just gonna show it here. It's a cube and it's a toy. You can get it at Walmart or Amazon. And it just has different targets on it. It's called the Merge Cube. We're using this for the app that we have now, but we've also developed our own cube. And the idea is that we have these 2D representations on the cube that reflect the 3D model that students will see. We've used Tinkercad, SolidWorks, Blender, and we build in Unity and with Euphoria. We're just now getting into A-Frame with ARGS. So there's that. And so the motivation for getting into AR is I was teaching in an informal program for little kids, middle school kids, and I was always trying to sneak in coding for them. And so one of the many things that I did was using Merge EDU has a different kind of package, and you can build some AR models for kids with Scratch-like interface. And so I was doing that and realized if middle school kids could do this, I should probably be doing it. And I had a lot of models in my head that I would be thinking about, and I would make things, right, and make things out of styrofoam and make arrows and all these things, trying to help students visualize what I was visualizing in my head. And I realized, like, what am I doing? You know, that takes so much work, and I only then show it once. And so how could I use AR to be able to demonstrate these 3D concepts? So the whole motivation is that we can have these 3D models that students can manipulate by rotating the cube and pushing buttons on the screen of their smart device. So the whole idea of embodiment, right? That I can embody that I'm actually physically interacting with this model that I sometimes can't see if it's an imaginary abstract concept or it's something where you're not given that representation. There are visualizations of abstract and 3D concepts. There are visualizations of 3D models corresponding to 2D representations. So you can see here, there's 4 here at the bottom, and the 2 on the left are the Lorentz force for a charged particle. And these 2 representations are really about the same thing, but when students see them, they think each one is individual. Where you could say, I've got these 2D representations, you could show the model and then have the students fill in all the other pieces of that model, so that instead of thinking one 2D representation represents one 3D model, you could say, now fill in the other 4 representations, 2D representations of that 3D model. The pictures on the right, the top one is something Natalie will talk about. So the 2D representation in organic chemistry and the 3D model. And then the bottom one is a new a new model that we made for the current in a wire, right? And thinking about the current, you're representing the current flowing, you're representing the magnetic field, you're representing what do the dots mean. You can turn it around and see it from the back, and that was in a browser. So we have that in a browser. This is YAR in physics, so we can connect to these two things. So you can see we've got the Lorentz force model here on the middle picture, and we can add in the 2D representations, like I said, and we can have the students fill in the other representations. And then we have the same idea. You can link this moving charge with a current carrying wire and see that it's really the same thing. And you get the same idea. And then this is a concept that's really tough for students. When I have like a conductor moving in a magnetic field, I have the charges that are moving. And so you can see the voltage difference in a wire, in a wire or some conductor as it moves through a magnetic field. You can see that charge difference. Okay, so I wanted to, before we go on to organic chemistry, I wanted to just show you what the app looks like. So I'm going to try this. Hopefully it works. So I think I want to stop sharing here and start sharing here. So I can't share, Andy.
It's on the iPad.
It's
Sorry,
on the
Michele.
iPad one.
That's with the lowercase Michele, is that correct?
Yeah, right.
Okay, awesome. Okay, try again.
Start. Okay. Okay, now we can. Okay, so this is, I'm just going to go back for a second so you can see like what our app looks like. So we've got a lot of these different kinds of models. This is just our original model, like that's a magnet. So you can see a student could hold the magnet in their hand, see the field lines coming out of the ends, see that we have a stronger, more dense field lines at the ends than we do on the sides, and then see the direction for the magnet. And I just want to show a couple of others. We've got a loop. So this whole idea is I've got this loop and my little blue ring there is, imagine that it's current when it moves. So I turn the current on and I can see the current flowing, the magnetic field turns on, right? If I turn it off, the magnetic field turns off. So kind of the idea of current carrying loop creates a magnetic field. A long wire. So this is the one we show, we see our like imaginary wire, and I can turn on the current. So positive charge. I could turn on the negative charge too for those that really don't want to think about positive charge, only want to think about negative charge, but we can turn on the B field. Right, and so students can really see that that B field comes out of the page and goes into the page, right? And we can rotate it, we can turn it upside down, so we could change the direction of the current and see the B field changing, and then we can add in the 2D representation. So here, and we can turn it around and see on here on the back that it switches. And so we've got a lot of different models in here. So we have optics models, circuits, we have electromagnetic induction. Here, I'll just show you one of these. This is kind of an interesting, one of my favorites because it's more interactive, and we've actually made this better than it is here in our newer update, but you can see that you can interact with it and see as the magnetic flux increases in the loop, we can see the changing current. So it's a great example of magnetic flux, electromagnetic flux. And I'm going to stop just so Natalie has a chance to talk about hers. So I guess I need to stop sharing.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, so share here. Oh, everything's in the way.
We see your desktop.
Yeah. There we go.
There you go. Okay. So like Dr. McClogan said, I got into this doing some physics stuff. And then she had always seen the students in her physics classes be so stressed out about organic chemistry. And she said, what can we do to help? Because it was a lot. And they were taking organic chemistry at the same time as physics. And it was so challenging. So we looked into why is this such a problem? Like, what's the big deal with organic chemistry? And when I took it, I remember feeling like I was just visualizing everything in my head, and that the steps of organic chemistry reactions were just, you were drawing each step like it was stationary in time, like flat out on paper. As you can see here, this, I don't know if anyone has an organic chemistry background, but this just looks like a bunch of lines and arrows and random stuff. But this is actually three-dimensional molecules that are interacting with each other, and they change their orientation in space and go through just a series of steps that are fluid in time, that you can't really tell that that's happening just through arrows and lines here in 2 dimensions, but this is how we're taught. So these things called mechanisms can really help students to understand what's happening in a reaction. And when you can understand a mechanism, which is depicted in this bunch of lines and arrows here, then you really can understand a lot in organic chemistry. So what I did is translate these mechanisms that we learn in 2 dimensions, and we just draw with lines and arrows, into the way that they actually occur as in 3 dimensions. So I built molecules in Unity that represent molecules like are represented by these lines, and then animated them so that you could see an actual reaction progress and what happens to the way the molecules are oriented in space, which different parts of molecules come off and become attached to other molecules and things like that. So I'm going to transition to the app and show you a few. Okay. So this is a separate app for chemistry that's also on the App Store, just like the electricity and magnetism and engineering app. So this is what it looks like on the home screen. And I have units for each unit in organic chemistry. And I'm going to start with one of the ones that we use right in the beginning of learning, what I called mechanisms. So on the bottom there is a representation in 2 dimensions of how a molecule completely reconfigures. And that looks like kind of weird, right? So you got these like wedges and dashed lines and other lines and arrows and dots. And when I click view reaction, this is what it actually looks like in 3 dimensions. So those lines and dots and that kind of weird stuff now is in 3 dimensions. It's a molecule that you can actually see. And when I press this play button, I can see that we have a whole change in configuration, and we have a change in what's connected to what. So it might not be obvious right away, but what's happening is those arrows that you saw in 2 dimension is actually what the animation is showing. So things are moving and becoming attached while something else comes unattached, and we change the whole configuration of the molecule. So this is one of the big things that you learn in the beginning, that, you know, if you don't understand that the whole thing becomes reconfigured, it's very difficult to grasp how it's oriented in 3D space. And so then we can connect those kinds of models for even bigger models. So for example, here is another one that's a little bit bigger. So we've got a whole ring over here, and then some things happening on that side. Well, that comes down. So it's just like a series of arrow movements that you would see in 2 dimensions that's actually represented by things moving here. So there's a whole collection for each unit in organic chemistry that shows these types of reactions that you can connect to the 2 dimensions that you would typically draw in the class. So I'll stop sharing.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Okay. And so I just want to finish up. So we have a 3-year NSF grant, and it's focused on augmented reality for magnetism concepts. We're looking at the AR affordances of our apps. We're looking at the effectiveness of using AR to teach these physics and chemistry and engineering concepts and spatial visualization skills. And we're using assessments, pre and post assessments, and surveys, interviews, and focus groups. And our grant runs from the from December or October through 2025. And this is just like we're using it in class with students, so students are able to download it on their phones. And that's it. So I just wanted to go back and just in case anyone wants to see, these are the QR codes in case you want to download them. They're on the App Store. And I also have a website where we also have 4 models using A-Frame and ARJS. And if you wanted to look at that, you can go here. There's a different cube that we're using. This is the cube that the A-Frame people use. So this is what we're using for now. But we're just looking at that because it's nice to be able to, use it on a Chromebook in schools or things like that. So we want to develop that capability.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining. It was great having you both here and learning more about the great work you're doing, pushing education forward. It's very important. And now I'd like to pass it off to Barry Seff for a question or two.
Yes, thank you so much. So I caught the tail end of that. And I must say, organic chemistry was not the best for a visual learner. So amazing stuff. I wish I had your app instead of using the physical sorry, my kids are talking to me. The rod and balls, and you had to do it all like Legos. Anyway, so I see you have the NSF grant and whatnot. Are you planning to make your platform available for like high schools and other public school educations, or is it only for like colleges at this time? Or what are your plans?
Yeah. For now, I mean, we just got, very first funding, right? We've never gotten funding before. We've done this all with we have an endowed student program. So we're kind of like getting used to what does it mean to have NSF funding. But yeah, I think we'd like to. It's just, our workforce is me and students at the moment. So, that kind of limits us a little bit. But yeah, I think we are. I think a lot of this could definitely trickle down to the physics classes in high school for sure. I know Natalie is in teacher training right now, so she already used some not organic chemistry, but other things with AR. And so I know we're working with Purdue on another proposal that we submitted back in October about, and they're really interested in teacher training programs using something like this. So I think, yes, we are, but not like immediately.
Oh, very interesting. Well, I have a teacher training. My daughter is in college for education at this point. Okay, so congratulations on the NSF grant. Also, that is really awesome, and your collaboration with Purdue. It's really exciting stuff. So definitely keep us posted. And one other question: what advice would you give to a college student or someone thinking about their career in education, or to be able to use these type of AR applications in education or some other like training type of applications?
I'll let you answer that.
So you asked what advice would I give?
Yes.
I would say just be ready to learn and come with creative ideas, because a lot of this is just figuring out what you can do with that idea that you have in your head. Like Dr. McClogan was saying, she would just make things out of styrofoam balls and sticks and just try to show people things, and being able to bring that to life is really exciting. So being able to use that passion and just learn anything. Like, I'm not a computer science person, but I was able to learn Unity, and I'm getting into coding and things like that, because it's really exciting to be able to show students how things work and how to visualize things. So just be excited, ready to learn, and I think it would be great for anyone to start.
Awesome. That's some really good advice. Cool. So thank you so much, and yeah, keep us posted on your future developments. We look forward to hearing some more on what you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank you so much for joining, guys. Okay, yeah, that was really great. Thank you. Next up, I'm very excited to have Chris Ross here. I was hoping to have him join for a while now, so it's really nice to have the opportunity to have him here. Chris spent the last 3+ years building AR glasses UX prototypes at Meta. He previously prototyped UX experiences for the first HoloLens at Microsoft, helped raise capital for the AR startup also named Meta, not Facebook, created real-time visuals for Steve Aoki, Paul Oakenfold, Tiesto, and others, prototyped light-up choreographable dance suits worn by the Black Eyed Peas, Britney Spears, and other pop stars, built interactive installations using massive LED walls at Intel's headquarters and CES performance, and created visuals for Seattle's largest projection mapping at Pier 86. Chris is a strong advocate for open source projects and an open metaverse. Thank you, Chris, for joining us. It's very good to have you here.
Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
I'm gonna share my screen.
Awesome.
All right. Let me just make this a little bigger. All right, you see, yeah, we'll see that.
Yep, looks good. Thank you.
Cool. All right, yeah. Chris Rojas. I was with Meta for a number of years, and I got laid off, and the 11,000 people got laid off. I was on the AR glasses team. I do a lot of work in like the boundaries between physical and digital, hardware, software. I do prototyping, like IC work, and then also I was leading a prototyping team, so management there. I joined when it was Oculus, and then it became Meta, which is somewhat unfortunate because I worked for another company also named Meta previously. So I worked at Project Nazare, our AR glasses. I'm just showing you a picture of the Ray-Ban glasses, not obviously the AR glasses, just because there's no photos of it yet. You can imagine it. But we do a lot of hardware prototyping, software prototyping. Here's a number of the hardware prototypes that were used at Oculus and the ones that I built. And we also use a lot of VR systems to prototype things. So a number of these, you can see the Quest Pro here, and a few other ones. Lots of fun prototypes. I just want to like briefly go through some of the prototyping techniques. We use OptiTrack quite a lot. You can see it, Zuck doing a demo here for some hand tracking, some haptics related tracking there. And then also just real world tracking of objects and getting some ground truth and use it for like machine learning and stuff too. So you can see these like little tiny dots, you know, these are like mocap markers that you see in movies when they're doing like mocap for film. It's the same exact systems, but also super useful for research, for ground truth, for object detection, and all sorts of other things. So yeah, I was at the Facebook Reality Labs, but it was quite separate. There wasn't really a lot of like Facebook people in the Seattle or Redmond office. It was mostly just Oculus. But now it's kind of merged. It's more like Facebook and Meta are one. I specifically worked on a lot of metaverse interoperability. I got that group going. Zuck talked about it a little bit in the past and like publicly. I was leading that charge to try and get virtual content to be interoperable, working with the Spatial Web Foundation, the Kronos Group, and W3C, and trying to figure out what does interoperable content actually look like? What is this new content that's going to fill the spatial web or the metaverse. I think a lot of attention has been put on this idea of a metaverse being mostly virtual reality, but having worked on AR glasses, this is probably a bigger problem space for AR once we get into things like a coffee shop owner wants to have some spatial content in their shop, and they don't want somebody blasting some terrible memes or profanity or something in their shop. Like right now, we go to a www.nike.com or something. We know that Nike put that stuff up. You're going to have those issues in the real world. Like, how do you know it's the actual true source, you know, that business wants? And then you get into all sorts of other crazy concepts like, well, I'm just renting that space. And where does that space end? Does it go onto the sidewalk? If you're, you know, renting an Airbnb, do you have access to that space? There's all sorts of interaction and other issues that will come up in the future. But it's a very deep path that we won't have to worry about for a number of years, but we are starting to. There's also a lot of privacy issues. So none of the work that I've worked on has been released because it's, you know, it's under NDA. But we have this lovely animation from Connect where they just, one of the guys on the team made this animation of augmented reality call using avatars. It's probably the closest thing we have to the actual work, even though it's just a concept of the actual work. But you can watch that at the last Connect. Some other stuff that I worked on was the EMG band. Here you can see they showed it off at Connect as well, doing some typing and some like input. So one of the other issues with augmented reality is going to be input. Like we have our keyboards, they're nice and wonderful and all that, but whenever you're without a keyboard, the fallback's usually voice. But what if you're in a subway or whatever? You can't just be shouting commands all the time. What if you want to text somebody? Do you have a phone-like device, or are you going to fall back to phones? What are you going to do when you want to write a little message, and how's that input going to work? And also another thing that this EMG band is trying to solve is this idea of this gorilla arm, like the HoloLens. We came up with this air tap gesture, but if you're doing this all the time, your arm's going to get tired. Or if you're in a subway, you might just poke somebody, you know, inadvertently, or put a hand up randomly and start, you know, it's no longer a discrete input. So it's important to have a very discrete input where you can do something very privately and quietly and doesn't use a lot of energy to do this input. Humans are always going to try and have our input mechanisms be the most efficient that we can for texting and that kind of thing. So I also worked with a bunch of the optics teams on basically, you know, designing AR glasses. Here's some of the people from the optics team. There's Nathan up in the corner. This is one of his prototypes. I didn't work on that one, but there's no photos of our stuff, so you get to see his stuff. This one's a pretty cool prototype. It's actually very similar to what Apple's been talking about with their pass-through. If you saw their patents, or I guess, you know, alleged patents, whatever, I guess the patents are there, but I don't know if they're actually going to do it because we don't know. But Nathan is showing off that kind of like visual pass-through, showing some displays of the eyes and the motions, so you can see the wearer and still see their eyes, even though they're completely covered behind like a VR glasses. So this is kind of a cool prototype they showed off a little while ago, and I don't know if Apple's going to go this hard and actually do something like that. It'd be pretty cool if they did, especially if it was one continuous display, so it just looked like a person's face. But that's something I think would be pretty neat. And I worked on a lot of silicon. Just how do you get all these things to actually fit into glasses? Like the current chips and things that we have in the industry are too big, too heavy, too power hungry, too hot, too a lot of things. And so we have to make new silicon. We have to make chips that are actually going to fit in glasses and be power efficient and very specific to what we need for stereo rendering. I mentioned something like this. This is where like earlier Tilt 5 was on here. If they had those Zuck bucks and could spend a ton of money, I'm sure they could get the silicon that they need to drop their prices significantly. And you know, I wish there was more money to go around and it wasn't all just Facebook, because the AR industry could definitely use a few more competitors and like variety in styles of glasses and things that are coming out, and not just one key tech. There's plenty of cool solutions like they're doing. They're solving this accommodation issue where whenever you look at something, your focal plane is off. And they were mentioning that earlier, like Tilt 5. And, you know, Magic Leap has solved this by having multiple planes, multiple focal planes, but that adds weight and complexity and compute and all these other things. So we still need a lot more solutions in this space before augmented reality glasses can be a real thing. So anyway, there's a lot more work at Oculus, Meta, but I can't really go into too much detail about it. So I'll chat about some other things. A little background on me. I'm a researcher, rapid prototyper. I also do installation art and visuals and things. I used to be a photojournalist a long time ago, and I just kind of got into this crazy field by, I was an embedded photojournalist with PBS and covered the Iraq War. I didn't want to do things that were so depressing all the time. So I took a job at this company called SparkFun, and they hired me to interview inventors around the world. And these inventors basically had the same story, whether you're, you know, a professor, and like this guy here is a teacher in high school, just started picking up some things, tinkering, building prototypes, like this really cool biology, you know, prototype that you're showing off, all these cool apps. Like people just start making things, and then it snowballs. And after time, like there's something that they've made that's really cool. So I just kind of took that concept and ran with it, and got a bunch of press a while back. Made some light up dance suits that were on America's Got Talent. And those were worn by the Black Eyed Peas and Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears. This is back in 2009. Probably saw them on TV if you're watching those shows a long time ago. I won't like dwell on that, but that was my first real electronics project. Just basically like wirelessly coordinating choreographable dance suits for a friend in New York. She's a choreographer, and this company's still running, and they have a Broadway show and Las Vegas show and whatever else now. I also used to run my own agency doing interactive art. So made a lot of visuals for DJs and stuff. But all this stuff is like kind of related, because you have like computer vision. We're using like depth cameras and 3D and all that. So it's all relatable stuff. And all these things are really useful, just tools to learn. So if you want to get into the industry, you can come from any background and just kind of take whatever your skill set is and like apply it to the direction you want to go. A lot of the things that I built in physical reality, like installation art, we would previs in VR and pitched it that way. So it was a really good mechanism for getting our projects done. Like this one, this projection mapping, you know, just using Google Earth, kind of like zooming in, getting over to the building, and then doing a lot of previs type stuff. A bunch of other work that I did was at Intel, doing the Intel RealSense depth cameras. Prototype those and productize those. I'll just kind of skip through these things. Did a lot of VR prototyping early on, a little bit of photonics. You talked about the Photonics Expo. I love that expo, really good for optics, and like just any kind of optics research. I'll keep going. Also worked at HoloLens. There we kind of covered a bunch of like the basics of what AR foundational like principles of interaction could be. Got to, you know, use these funky headsets back in the day before it was an actual product. and also worked at a different company called Meta. It was an AR glasses company, which actually came from a meetup in New York. It used to be the Augmented Reality New York Meetup. So New York has a really solid meetup scene, I would say. So this whole company started from that meetup. Let's kind of jump ahead a little bit. So I want to just talk about, like, I've been doing AR for a very long time, since 2001. Back when AR Kit first came out. Like I said, the New York Augmented Reality Meetup, or Augmented Reality New York Meetup, that Ori used to run. He now runs the AWE Augmented World Expo and Super Ventures. Noah, who's a very big, Noah Zirkin, I guess AR builder, prolific builder, also was part of the AR meetup scene in New York. And then Meta was basically started in New York there. I want to just go over, like, if you're interested in this kind of field, the typical team of AR VR is typically like product designers, product design prototypers, which is what I started out as, UX researchers, project managers, TPMs, engine engineers. And these are the tools that we use. Use the Quest Pro, HoloLens 2, internal prototypes, EMG bands. You can also just get an Android watch that has like EMG. There's a couple different options for doing like similar things. And with the eye tracking of the Quest Pro, you can start to do some pretty wild prototypes. I know Dilmer on YouTube, who does a lot of tutorials. He has some cool videos showing off some similar interactions. And then the software we use is typically Unity, Figma, Shapes XR. A lot of people use like Blender, Maya, C4D, and just like Photoshop and stuff. And then a lot of the product designers use Figma as well. It's like kind of their main thing. If you're getting into product design from that angle for AR, VR, no Figma inside and out. Be very good at that and translating those into 3D interfaces in AR or VR. A lot of product designers have some additional skill like illustration or 3D art. And then a lot of the project managers are kind of standard across the industry, nothing too crazy there. And same with software engineering. But there's a ton of other roles. So like, if people want to get into this field, you could be really good at networking, computer vision, or maybe hardware systems. WebXR has been exploding. Like, I feel like that area is growing very rapidly. Silicon is absolutely needed. Lots of thermodynamics engineers, AI is like, it's popping off. And some of the new tools that I like Spline. It's a web-based 3D tool. WOMP is also pretty cool. And then the Needle engine, I would recommend also picking up, trying that. It's useful for going from Unity to WebXR, and you can do a bunch of cool prototypes directly in Unity and make it interoperable. Niantic's doing cool stuff as usual with their like visual positioning system. And then a lot of the creator style stuff is also exploding. There's Lens Studio and Spark AR. One specific thing I want to call out is there's a new system called Virtual Objects in Spark AR, and that's one of the things I was working on for interoperability. It's made to go across platforms, and maybe eventually they will open source it. But it's just a way for content to exist that multiple people could make, like Michele could make an app, and then Andy can make an app, and I can make an app, and we can all see those apps running side by side in the same space at the same time. And that's a really important foundational like principle for interoperability. But that's hard to do. So yeah. Other cool things been playing with, lots of AI. I've been working on an AI startup making AR filters, all generatively. So yeah, there's like, of course, Luma has been doing a lot of great stuff. ChatGPT, super useful tool. I've been using Google Colab to do a lot of AI experiments, and Hugging Face, also kind of same thing, just lots of cool AI stuff going on there that relates to AR. And I'm sure this area will grow into AR. It's kind of eating into computer vision as well. So computer vision is kind of getting dominated by AI over the last few years. And that's all I got. So any questions?
Thank you, Chris, for an amazing presentation. And as I wrote in the chat, it was very informative and a lot of very helpful information and resources for the group. So thank you for being transparent and sharing your experience with everyone. It's really appreciated. Let's see. So a few questions. What do you feel regarding the NVIDIA's Omniverse, given your experience with interoperability?
I think it's very necessary. They're kind of tackling a different piece of that puzzle. They're kind of going after the USD file format and like expanding that out quite a lot. So they're more on like the creator like tools side. So if you want to make a really big project with lots of complex 3D stuff, you know, they're gonna hit that pretty hard. But as far as like interoperability for multiple devices and that kind of thing, I think you still have to export out to a smaller, lighter weight format because like USD is just too big and beefy. It contains like everything in the kitchen sink. But you need that if you want it to work with different software. And I think that open system of like, we want this file format to work in a bunch of different software is like very admirable. And then they're also doing lots of like great cloud compute related things with that because it is just so freaking heavy. But that's just like one piece of the puzzle.
What's the value of a USD file format versus an OBJ or a GLTF?
Well, you're just not going to get as much of the information that the software is containing, I guess. Like you'll get some minimalist like blend shapes and things from a lot of the other file formats that are a little lighter weight, but USD is going to contain a lot more like settings and details. And it's just more useful for going between different high-end applications like Maya and whatnot. But you don't need all that stuff. It's like you want to bake it down for the web.
Awesome.
You know?
Another question that came in. You have vast hardware and software knowledge and experience. What do you think are some important hardware additions, improvements required for an AR device? For example, haptics, eye tracking, spatial audio, etc.
I mean, we already have spatial audio. Haptics is like a nice to have. It's definitely not a need. I think our biggest thing is better, brighter optics, lower power, less heat. Because the main thing, like, I don't know, I used to have glasses. I got LASIK. I'm not going to put something over 100 grams on my head and wear it all the time. I mean, most glasses are probably like 30 grams or less. So like the Tilt 5 is less than 100 grams. Like you need to meet that minimum weight threshold. So it's about getting that kind of hardware to all either work on the glasses or be remote to a secondary device of some sort. That's why like you see Apple with their little like what they call a little like pouch, like the little Walkman style thing, because they're just trying to reduce weight off people's heads. Like same with Magic Leap. You just got to get that weight off people's heads. You're not going to have them wear these giant things. For VR, you might be able to get away with it, but that's less of a time like dedication. So you can say, oh yeah, you're going to play VR stuff for like an hour. Cool. But AR is supposed to be eventually like all day wearable. And we have a lot of stuff to do before we get there.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. One more question. I've been hesitant to create AR experiences because of the amount of code that it requires. What are some platforms that you recommend in order to get started?
I think you could show a lot of really cool concepts and your creativity using something like Shapes XR. It's like a no code, just pop on a VR headset and start making some experiences. You could also make those mixed reality experiences. So you have that pass through camera going. You don't need to code with any of that. Also maybe use like Spline to create some models. You don't need to code and it's not as complex. It kind of takes more of like a designer Figma style approach to 3D instead of traditional like textures and materials. So there's a lot of like new school tools that are just smarter. And I think you can do a lot of like dumping your ideas out there without having to code.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining us tonight.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it was great having you. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, awesome presentation. Thank you so much. We all learned a lot from it. Okay. Let's see here. And I'll be posting the recording of the meetup, of all our meetups on YouTube. So if you wanted to review that and some of the resources, you could check it out. Okay, moving forward, just pulling up the slides here. Hold on one second, I'm sorry.
Andy, do you want me to, I can just go.
I have, let me read your intro and then, yeah, okay,
Okay.
fine. Can I just read, can I introduce you if you don't mind?
Yeah, go for
Okay.
it. It's fine.
Samantha Wolfe is the founder and CEO of PitchFWD, an award-winning strategic consultancy focused on communicating the creative and business opportunities of emerging technologies. PitchFWD partners with some of the most innovative companies like Agile Lens, Bose, Haptex, Molex, Tilt5, who we saw tonight, and Helium, as well as forward-thinking academic institutions like Columbia University and University of Maryland on their branding, marketing, and business strategies. She is currently an adjunct professor at NYU Steinhardt, all really exciting ventures. So we're excited to have you here with us tonight, Sam. So thanks for joining.
Thank you. And I'm so excited. I mean, like Hans, I haven't seen Hans' stuff in a little while, so that was really fun. And Michele, I love all that sort of academic stuff. And then, hi Hans, we won an award together. I haven't talked to him since we did it. So I'm super thrilled about that. And then Chris, if we need to have a coffee or something, because I just was like nodding to everything that you were saying. It's like, yes, yep, absolutely. So let me go. Let's see, hopefully I can share my screen and let's go. Slideshow. Okay, so I will try to this is the end. We had a lot of excitement at the beginning, and now it's like everybody's like, it's been an hour and a half. So let me try to bring up the level of enthusiasm and excitement to get us going. So I'll talk a little bit about me. I mean, Andy did some of that. I'll do a little bit more about it, and then about PitchFWD, and then about the book. So this is an outdated picture of me, but that's okay. It works. Founder of PitchFWD, adjunct professor, author. Some people have called me names that are good names, I guess. Emerging tech adoption catalyst, networker in chief. This is where I'm just I just like to meet people that do really cool stuff, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, be able to work with them. I am somebody that is just a huge emerging tech enthusiast, and with sort of the lens of AR and VR, looking onto these other technologies. And I like to help to figure out how people, whether it be developers, learn about really cool tech, or people sort of outside of the direct tech industry. I can translate it, figure out who the target audiences are, and how to make it so it makes sense, so that they get really excited like I am. So tend to work with developers, innovators, early adopters from a target audience standpoint. And I do sometimes I get the make me a thought leader request every once in a while, which is an interesting request to get launch, relaunch, go to market, so on and so forth. There's Tilt5, and then some of the other folks. And if you follow the industry, you would have heard of them. If you don't, it ends up being a really quick slide. I'm let's move on, next one. So I've taught as an adjunct now for, this is my third year and my fourth original class. I started with the business of AR and VR class. Then I did a marketing of emerging technologies because I believe it's different, the marketing and branding strategy, avatars and virtual beings, and then business of the metaverse. So I'm teaching sort of the avatars and virtual beings, business of the metaverse. I've had, I would say, probably somewhere around the lines of 150 guests over those years. I feel like I'm sort of programming my own little conference where I get to be like really geek out and see the guests talk, but most of my students are non-technical. About, I would say 3/4 are women or not binary. And I get to help them get really excited about maybe working in technology, even if they don't know how to do it. And I'm about 5 to 10% of my students end up switching careers, which is pretty cool. I don't know. I mean, right now with all the layoffs, maybe not, but I'm like, they're cheaper than most employees. Okay, about metaverse. I got my physical copy. Hey. Sometimes it's nice to have a physical good every once in a while. And so the idea with metaverse, which I wrote with Louis Bravo Martins, who's based out of Portugal, was really to help people to understand these technologies, how it applies to, what they're doing, usually from a much more of a, I would say, like a business perspective, a executive at a company, who's like, I've heard of this, what should we do? And in general, I try to make things pretty easy to understand. I mean, that's my goal. I have like sci-fi quotes at the beginning of things because I'm dorky like that, and which I love to have that there. And then a lot of sort of bullet points in it. It is like 300 and some pages, and hopefully it'll be something that somebody like goes back to over and over again. And let's see. So those bullets are a little bit more like what's on the back cover, and so you can look at it. What's particularly fun about this is that I was able to get Martina and Amy from WXR to write the foreword, and I've started in meetups also, and going to meetups like 6 years ago. I was in the TV industry for quite a long time, and that's sort of how I learned. And so maybe people will learn about these technologies and what to do from reading my book. This is Louis. He's amazing. I adore him. He really comes across, even though he works in the more of a sort of B2B, the industrial metaverse space. He comes at things very much from policy, safety, security perspective, and I tend to go like business opportunities. And so it was a really nice mesh between the two of us. Because I like my network and I love developers in the space, I got a ton of contributors, over 60, to be a part of it and have like little quotes in there that hopefully, the book comes out on the 7th. And so I'm hoping that people are like, hey, look, here's my picture of my quote in the book. I didn't realize when I did all of this that I like to build communities. And so I guess I'm just sort of doing it with the book and just trying to get lots of different people's voices. And I asked them to contribute, like, what do they, if they're predicting the future about whatever their expertise is, what would they say? And then we integrated their thoughts into the book. So that's really sort of fun. And hopefully as people get their physical copies, they'll start talking about it. So what is the metaverse? I have, so there's definitely like people out there that are like, it's here, it's, I don't know, like they could say like Sandbox or Decentraland or Roblox or whatever it is. And I'm a bit on the opposite side of it's the fourth industrial revolution. It is all these new technologies are maturing all at the same time, and they're all going to be integrated in some kind of way that we're still figuring out, and we will be figuring out, and that's okay. And it's been fun because sometimes, especially the executives like outside the industry worry that they have to know everything. Or if you're really, really new to the industry, like some of my students, you feel like I have to know it all. Like I can't say that I know this, or I can't work in it if I don't know it all. And that's the sort of fun part to me of emerging tech, is you don't have to. And the people, honestly, who know the most are the ones to be like, we don't know, we'll figure it out. The people who say they definitely know and whatever, just be a little bit on the more skeptical side of things, because they aren't opening themselves up to having something like Chat GPT come out and like, oh wait, wait a second, what is OpenAI gonna do? Like those are just the waves of emerging tech. So the important thing of it is this idea that it's that interactive dimension, which I mean, we're in this meetup, everybody sort of is aware about AR and interactivity. And to me, I tend to explain it as like trying to explain VR to somebody, then I explain what AR to somebody is, and then I say, now what if you put them together? And granted, that is not talking about all the other technologies that are part of it, but I feel like if you're just sort of a general consumer, or if you're an employee at a corporation, when you put on that headset, you're probably not going to go, well, this is a blockchain technology. I have my, you're just going to want to experience it and have it work. And so I feel like from an entry point to just understand the lenses that are involved, even if it's camera lenses on your phone, is sort of just like an easier way to get it before you have sort of crypto bros telling you that they know everything, and you don't. Okay, the chapters in the book, try to cover everything we could, try to group it in terms of opportunities and challenges. I think that especially in working at Steinhardt, which is a media studies school, I've joked that my students are like the future protesters of the world. Like they're going to be the ones who are going to, say this technology is bad, and and so I have to be very, very wary of any promises a technology does, while at the same time being extremely enthusiastic. And I think that's to me, that's sort of the book makes that balance. It is, if you're the red pill and the blue pill. Sorry, bad joke. So predictions, technologies, talking about the race has begun, like all this there. Doing business, I had to, because I do love my sort of avatars and virtual humans, got to write a chapter about that. Metaverse markets is like my opus in the middle of the book, which I'll try to go through very quickly. I know we're running late. Understanding reality, then getting into privacy and safety, new rights and regulations. And then what's also nice, if you don't have, sort of your foot in the door when it comes to these technologies, that we put what we call like a toolbox in the back of like, here's all the different places you can go. Here's all the different things that you can learn, so that you're sort of like, you're out of the nest now, you've understood the metaverse, now you can go and try to figure out your part and know the good and the bad, like know the fact that like data capture is going to be a huge debate and issue, and that if you're making a decision that you're like, well, what are we going to do about the data, how are we going to manage it, becomes not something that's like, oops, we screwed up, we didn't even think about data and managing data, but now you sort of are made aware. So is this terrible joke that I call hashtag chapter 8. I am the only person in the entire world that does this, so I am the one hashtag chapter 8, and I'm okay with that. I find it funny, and sometimes you just have to laugh. Okay, chapter 8. So this is, as I said, like my I'm gonna put everything, because the metaverse book is basically, how can I take all that I've been learning, and then all Louis knows, and all that I've sort of understood, and like help people. Like that really is the core of what I'm about, is trying to either help people communicate what the value is of these technologies, or help people understand. And then I thought, you know what, if you're outside the industry, you might want to go like, well, how does it apply to me? And so hopefully chapter 8 does that a bit, in the fact that there's sort of 2 to 3 pages of, I think it's like 25 different industries where we go like, these are the kinds of things that are happening, and some are a little bit older just because they're super cool, and others are more recent. And we also tried later in the book to not just say this is what happened, but also go, hey, you should consider this, or think of this, or do this in the future. Lots and lots of bullet points. I love bullet points. And it's not alphabetized, but everything else in the book is. So to give you just a little bit of a hint, even though each of these things, these are almost like the main bullet names as opposed to all the details that are in the book. Like art and performance, I love to start with that. I love to include it in my class. So all the different ways that you can use these technologies, from creation tools to displaying what you're doing, help with education. I mean, we already sort of talked about that. Selling, sort of selling your artwork, creating different sort of subscription tools. They're all are possible. And then this is the Nancy Baker Cahill, who is one of the sort of the different, I talked about a few different artists. We talked about a few different artists that were, at least we did it as like exciting for Louis and me. Like that they're like, these are the people that I go, oh, you know what you could do now? And that's where we sort of kept most of the examples in that sort of what gets us really excited. And I have many, many pages of this, but we can go through quickly, like advertising, PR, and marketing. I mean, I do include the Fortnite and the Roblox and all of those in Decentraland and Sandbox within it, because I still think that you can learn from them. You can still understand what is going on, and then say, okay, now what if that turns into an interactive dimension on our world, and how does that change things? Here, product placement, world building, there's advertising, there's community building. Let's see, retail is always super, super fun, especially now. I'm really excited to get one of the heads of innovation at Nike to come and talk to my class, and I'm going to totally be way too excited about it because I love what they do. I love to follow what they do. And so you can talk about digital point of sale, physical point of sale, sort of hybrid in between. Automotive and aerospace. I put automotive, aviation, aerospace like all in the same group, which I'm sure anybody in that industry is like, no, it's so different. But to me, it is sort of from like the design phase all the way to the like sales and maintenance. And I found this great, like the first HUD display on a Chevy Corvette concept car. And so if you think of 1965, 1966 as when they're like, this is the car of the future, and now that kind of display is pretty much available in quite a lot of cars. Digital twins and simulations, so on and so forth. Entertainment, I love my Mandalorian. Can't help it. They also I did say, like, we talk about casinos and gambling and adult entertainment and music. Didn't want to sort of put any kind of restrictions on the different kinds of industries when we went through them. Gaming, this isn't, this picture is a little blurry, but I have to put Tilt. But like I always say for Tilt 5, like I have 2 developers in my classes this semester, and I'm like, get a Tilt 5 system. Just get it, just play, just get the Tilt 5 system. So which ones we should talk, because now I'm going to be in this like metaverse collective at NYU, and I can like push more, and University of Maryland, I talk to them a ton too. So there's sports, gamification, lot of no code. Oh, I forgot to change no code or low code experiences with gaming. Healthcare, this MTech labs. I love the guy who runs it. I don't know if he's ever talked here, although he's more VR Andy, but the creator of it uses sensors to help people with paralysis learn to change their sort of facial expressions, and he's created all these sort of high-end prototypes. Obviously, Chris could look at this and be like, you can't do that anymore, but that's okay. You're one of the few people who can look at that and be like, no, that wouldn't work now, but it does for him. So this for healthcare, administrative, logistical, detection, identification, all the sort of cool things of like the cancer, not cancer kind of training that's going on with, at different universities right now that I think, is going to save lives, mental health and wellness. I love my Supernatural. I'm completely addicted. I don't know if anybody plays that. I do way too much. I'm over 300,000. So I have to use Renee Pollard. So sports and fitness sort of can be at home, at the game, or for fitness. Military, we've talked about that a little bit at the beginning. Let's see, manufacturing. I was part of this. The Molex is a company that wanted to do a industrial metaverse white paper, and I was hired to be a sort of a subject matter expert and give quotes and be part of their efforts to get people in the manufacturing and industrial metaverse to get like sort of aware of these technologies and what they can do. And it is from there, the assembling all the way through updating training, so on and so forth. I'm going to keep going. Architectural and real estate. See, chapter 8 was long. Alex Colum, Agile Lens, amazing guy. I think he has the most amount of quotes in our book. Training and education, which Michele was, already talking about different sort of ways to do it. And Noni de la Pena, who's, one of the early pioneers in, 360 video, that she now runs a lab at Arizona State University. So I had to include a picture of that. And that's it. I tried to go quickly. It's not super quickly, but I apologize. So the book is out February 7th, all about future business opportunities. I said opportunities again, opportunities and challenges. And it really, hopefully it's a book that people can sort of go back to and refer to it, especially if they're like, oh, I'm working on this kind of project, what should I, what can I look at and try to understand to help sort of brainstorm. That's a little bit what I was attempting to do in the writing of it, Louis, and make it not like super depressing. That was my other, like, it's like inspiring, not depressing, even if we're talking about some things that are really quite serious. And that's it. Hopefully that, I was trying to go quickly through a lot of things, but hopefully that gives you a sense. That's me. The book is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, pre-orders, all that kind of stuff. Let me stop my share.
That's awesome.
And hopefully, even though it's at the end, that there is at least a burst of energy at the end, even though I'm like, and this industry, and in this suit,
No,
and this industry.
That was excellent. And I can't wait to read the book. Thank you so much. Are you going to have a book signing? Me and Hans want a signed copy.
You want to be like, here, Gator's awesome. Like, 10-5 is amazing. That's probably what I would do. Lisi, who's on here, is helping me because I was like, I can't do this all by myself. I'm so much more used to helping get the word out about other people and other exciting technology. This is very awkward for me to be like, buy my book. But I do want people to get excited, and right now it is very like ChatGPT and AI and OpenAI taking over everything. But to me, it's all part of this future. And to get sort of excited about it. but yeah, if you're in New York, I'm gonna I don't know if I'm allowed to cross promote meetups, but I'm gonna go to the New York AR meetup in
Yeah, that's
person
great.
next
That is-
Thursday.
Yeah.
DJ's trying to do it in person, so I am I'm gonna be there, and then I always
Amazing.
like amazing people to come and pop into my class and just talk about their careers and what they're doing, because I think that sometimes technology feels like so distant and remote that it's nice to just have somebody on Zoom be like, because I had Jerry twice. She's, I think, my favorite speaker of all that I've ever had, and just talking about her career, and
Cool.
it was so amazing to just hear what she's done, and just super inspiring. So
That's
that is
really-
a goal. Chris, I'm gonna hit you up, and same with Michelle, and like, I will. And I saw a couple people that are on the call that I've already hit up, so I will hit up again. But it's really it's fun. And Andy, you have to come. If I didn't already schedule you, you got to do it.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you you hopping on. One question I have for you that came in, I just want to ask, and then I'll open it up to any questions
Sure.
for the other speakers. And if you do have a question, just place it in the chat, because we're going to keep the mics closed to participants. So what advice do you have for a college student looking to be involved with AR, particularly with all the layoffs currently happening in Silicon Valley?
Well, I think that what's interesting is that the tech press tends to go to the extremes, and it's good like it's a good catchy headline, and there are lots and lots of layoffs that are happening. I think, at least for my college students, that I say look beyond the like big tech companies, look for some of the smaller ones that are doing amazing things, and just try to network and talk and meet with people. And when you're networking, don't go, oh, can you explain to me what your company does? Like, go in with, Hans, you have this amazing technology. I was playing with it. And then you might not get the job right away. Sorry, Hans, I'm getting people to like apply, but I do love to apply. But then he can remember later, especially if you're like, oh, I did this cool prototype, or I did this whatever, and tend, share more than like ask, like give back to the community, get involved in the community, and I think that is sort of, I guess, the advice that I give my
Awesome.
students is like, have it be related to what you're doing, and don't just go, I can't code in Unity, I don't know how to get a job. It's like I'm never going to have a career. I
Sure.
don't know how to code. I should, but I don't. And some of it is that I just argue that you need other kinds of skill sets in the industry to be able to do it. And as long as you're respectful of everyone, and I love my developers and coders, then you should be able to find your place.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam, for joining us. It was great having you, and I look forward to reading your book.
Yes, I hope you like it.
Thank you so much. All right. Sorry, Tom, we're not going to be able to answer. We're not going to be able to choose on participants. So if you have a question, just ask it directly in the chat. We still have all the speakers here. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I appreciate all of you sticking in.
Me too.
What's the this is like a broad question, but what's the timeline looking like for AR glasses? I know there's been a lot of hurdles being mentioned in the news. Do you feel like pass through is going to be the way to go in the near future?
I'm gonna ask Matt Meisnick when I got him to come to my class.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, and Chris, you are more technical than me, but I feel like you gotta. Well, one, I love Tilt 5 because it's the AR somewhere. I still have the AR somewhere of like understanding what the technology is, and so AR glasses, they're already here with Tilt 5.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I mean, they just are. And then and And whereas when it comes to technologies where it's about the world, you have to map the world, you have to understand the world, you have to figure out how to filter the world, you have to figure out who wants what is going on in terms of multiple people interacting with each other. And like Chris was, you were talking about how hard even like anything is, that I think that there's a part of me that wanted, you know, the Apple AR glasses, but I also was like, I don't want it to think of it as the be all and end all, because it's not going to be like a magically that would come and then everybody would understand AR glasses and get it. So now we just have to come up with something else, and there'll be multiple steps. So it's just years, but that's okay.
Yeah, I would echo what Chris was saying earlier, is like having more players, I think, kind of advances the technology and where we think it can go for everybody. I'm really hoping Apple will kind of show their hand sooner than later, because it would really help the industry at large, and more people will get a flavor of what augmented reality could be for their home, for their work, for school. And video pass-through is, of course, a much better solution than just completely isolation, but it still suffers from, in my opinion, a lot of the technical issues of verdance accommodation, of things being presented to you in a lens really, or screen really close to your eyes, and you have to focus on that. And that's still going to make you tired. It's not, and that, as Chris was saying, those headsets are heavy. You kind of need something under 100 grams. You want to be able to wear it for hours before you feel like, okay, now I can use it for school, or sorry, the light went out. I can use it for work. I can use it for play. A solution has to come along that's comfortable, easy to use, affordable, social, shareable. We feel we have that, but we don't have a Tilt 5 in every home in the world yet. So if that's what it takes to get there, then help us get there.
Yeah. Looks like the chat's not working, by the way. Andy, can you turn it on?
Yeah, should I open it up? I'm a little nervous, but I'll.
Andy's nervous.
I don't know.
All right, I'll
Chris, you saw what happened at the beginning.
There's bad people out here.
Chris, before having Hans and me explain your thoughts for you.
Yeah, as far as like
Chris, I'll open it up for you, but I'll just keep a close eye on it.
The timeline for AR glasses is probably a number of years away. I think, like before, there's a lot of issues. I think pass-through is definitely going to be our stepping stone for the next few years, and I'll expect that to just improve a little bit here and there. Over time, better resolution, less kind of jumpy, less like you are in this Lord of the Rings kind of like nightmare world, and just cleaner pass-through. I think one of the big challenges is also just trying to get the compute to be away from the glasses as much as possible. One of the same issues that like Tilt 5 has, that we have, that everyone has, is like this is kind of a one-off product. Like you as a user, it's a one-to-one thing. You have to own it. It's not like a TV where 4 people can all enjoy it at the same time without additional costs. So I think whoever makes like the display and they can just offload the compute, it's probably one of those random optics companies who's been doing glasses for a long time. If they can just ship something that has just the bare minimum sensors and it's more of a display than an actual like computing device, that might be more useful, and just iterate, get those as cheap as humanly possible, because we can always upgrade our compute and like do our own platform, Tilt 5 platform or Android platform, whatever the platform is, it doesn't really matter. But like that software, that experience is just it's a huge piece, but the actual display, everyone's still suffering with the same restraints on physics.
What Tilt 5 still has been able to pull off, I think, is just inspiring as to what is possible, versus sometimes if you put on the Nreal glasses or Magic Leap or whatever, there's I get sort of frustrated by the lines and the bar, because I'm looking at a television screen. And I
Yeah.
think that that's just, there's I'm going to say her name, Alicia Likander, who, like, when she talks about what's possible and how to play around with that, I think that's good. But most people aren't, they don't think, they're just like, oh, and this is where the screen ends, as opposed to thinking necessarily about the user experience, and that just like makes you lose some of the magic of it.
Thank you. A few questions coming in from the chat. I just want to ask them to the speakers first. Has anyone heard of what Zeiss is doing? Okay. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of playing this same game that a lot of, I think, like more traditional, bigger optics type companies are trying to do. They're trying to get into this game. They don't have like the UX experience. They don't have the computing platform. They're just going for that display, right? And that's fine. That's like totally fine, as long as we can get good enough optics. I think a lot of companies are going after the same kind of optical solutions, kind of over and over again. And like, yeah, I think like Sam was saying is like, waveguides have issues, right? Waveguides have a lot of inconsistencies. They're not one, like every HoloLens is actually different. Like if you look at the display quality of one HoloLens compared to another, you might just have a bad one. Like, so that's not good. At least with like Tilt 5, you're going to get consistency because you don't have the same kind of display. So like, yeah, what Zeiss is doing is cool. What these other companies are doing are cool. We just need more of it.
And not people going like this.
I mean, you know,
in the world,
wave
walking
their hands
around.
if they want. It's, I think direct hand interaction is pretty valid, but like we use our hands on surfaces quite a lot. But what we don't do is a lot of mid-air gestures. Those are not as like functional as like the movies will have us think.
Cool. Question for Michele and Hans. Where are the major XR, AR opportunities in education? This is Ron's question, but I'm adding education here. In education, business, from a technology perspective.
I can give a very sort of broad general answer, and it just kind of comes back to our brains are more intuitively dialed into when things are presented stereoscopically, meaning you can see something with your left and right eye together and there's depth of information. We notice patterns and aberrations in things, in data and objects and models, when we can see and view them stereoscopically. Computer screens are great. We use them every day. They're wonderful. I worked in games for so long. I watched artists create masterpieces, which are true 3D models, but they're all being done with a computer mouse and or stylus and a 2D flat screen. But when you really can migrate and work and look at truly 3D spatial objects, something magical happens. And we're not at a point where we can work in that kind of environment for long stretches during the day. We can do it sort of sporadically. We can do it with a VR headset. We can do it with some AR glasses. What we really want to do is be able to work with models and information in stereoscopic 3D and do so collaboratively and do it easily and quickly. So for businesses and education, there is almost an infinite amount of uses that you can think of. What I've observed is more in the cases of enterprise businesses, there's sort of taking what was previously done with real physical models, like models of factories or apartments, buildings, architecture. And I see a lot of taking that formerly physical activity and transforming it and putting it into a digital one that can be viewed in the same way you would a physical model, but with both your eyes. And then, you know, for education, this is really more Michele's domain, but I used to be frustrated by looking at what was a 3D representation of a molecule in a textbook. I would much rather see it in the 3D way that Michele and team have done. It just feels more intuitive and practical and real, and like, oh, I can finally see this. It's hard to draw 3D things with a flat piece of paper. And So I think as soon as we can provide tools that we can use every day for almost an unlimited amount of time during the day, we're going to see just an explosion of use cases. That's my guess.
One of the things that I've been noticing is just working with the team of students is how much more they learn by creating their own models, right? And so they have to think about it, they have to think about how to present it. And so I think the easier the tools are to use, it would be a lot easier to invite students to create, right? To be less passive and more active in their learning. And the same thing like with AI, you hear all these people about shutting down AI and showing that students, are cheating or whatever, but why aren't we like putting AI in the hands of young kids so they learn to use AI, so they treat, like there's so much opportunity to be creative without the like models that we have for education. So there's like all this opportunity, and I feel like school just shuts that down, and it would be really nice to open it up for kids to explore and create.
Michele, what do you, and I have some other questions. What do you feel about the fact that a company like Meta has so much funding and potentially like a monopoly on like a lot of areas of the industry? How does that affect your work in education?
I don't know. I think, when people do things grassroots from the bottom up, it's just so much more creative. So I think a lot of the money is dangerous, right? Like it's nice to create stuff when you're not, you are not held hostage by the finances. So, I mean, we built this on, maybe, 20 grand of supporting students in summer positions, like we created what we wanted and we were in charge of it. So I don't know, like I have mixed feelings about somebody else providing the money and the requirements for what's being built.
Awesome. Thank you. Question from Tom, and we have a few more speakers if you need to head off, and attendees as well. Feel free. But we have some questions rolling in. Tom, for Chris, what exactly does stereo rendering entail, comprise of, technical wise, specs, hardware, etc.?
There's a lot. I would say it really depends on how deep you want to go. I mean, at its core, we're just looking at a disparity between what your left eye and right eye sees. But it's a lot more complicated than that. Like your eyes can focus individually. So like if you hold up your finger and you focus here, you can do that and focus on your finger, or you can focus on the display behind it. So that's one of the main issues that plagues stereo rendering, is again that vergence accommodation issue. So that's like one part of it. The rendering pipeline, like you need to get things to be world locked for like real AR. This is also one of the things that Till5 kind of goes around, like, and they just have a really nice matte, easy to track matte right there. But you still have cameras, right? You still need cameras on the glasses to make it world locked or object locked or whatever. It's not like Google Glass where it's just a little display floating in the corner and it's always like head locked exactly where you are. To me, that's just not AR. That's like a heads up display. It doesn't really feel like it. So you need that. And if you're going to do that, you probably need some really, really fast eye tracking to get it to be rendered as quickly as possible for any adjustments. You need a really good SLAM system, solid IMUs. You need there's a lot of little pieces that come into it. You also need a compositor to handle the various layers. What if it's system UI versus world lock stuff? How far away is it? All these different things kind of play into just what makes up a stereo set of glasses. But yeah, far more than we could talk about in this amount of time. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you, Chris. Hans, it must be nice to be the head of business at Till5, because everyone in the industry loves your hardware, and there's a lot of speculation on all other hardware. So you're like that, the token AR company here. So how is that?
It's very nice of you to say. I wish it were completely true. I think if everybody knew about Tilt 5, it would make my job a lot easier. This community that's gathered here tonight, we're a bit of an echo chamber. We all kind of know what's going on in AR, or certainly after tonight, you know a little more, and you've gotten caught up on the news a little bit. Thank you for that, Andy. We need to get the word out if we really want to be a successful company, and we would love, the folks outside of this industry to really give this a try and to play games or to do something educational. We have our work cut out for us. We have to, get on the airwaves and do marketing campaigns and do a lot of PR. And I'm looking at people like Lisi and Sam to help me. But yeah, there's just
I'm trying. My
thank you. But yeah, no, I appreciate the compliment a lot. It is very fun to wear these hoodies and t-shirts and walk around at shows like AWE, the Augmented World Expo, and then we'll get shout outs. We're like Tilt 5, and I don't think I've ever worked for a company, and I worked for video game companies where people just shout your company name at you. It's just really, really flattering and exciting. So yeah, but we'd love to sell a lot of units too, and that's going to take a lot more work.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thanks for being here. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, Mike had a comment. He's bringing his Tilt 5. Yeah, he's bringing his Tilt 5 to work. So he's excited about that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it was really great to have all the speakers here tonight, and I appreciate everyone joining and sticking around till the end. Thank you all so much, and also a great insightful discussion at the end that I always look forward to. So thank you so much. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Hans. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.